Hello everyone, I'm Beastly Eel, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the latest episode of The Bad Batch. This episode was called Return, or The Return, I believe. And in this was the fifth episode of the final season, and this pretty much goes, kind of takes place just slightly after the end of the last episode. So the entire group has gone to the ocean planet where they found Sanctuary, the one that flooded. And Crosshairs is trying to, hone his skills again to try to get better with sniping. And apparently, the Bad Batch are still not getting along. Specifically, Hunter and Crosshairs do not trust each other at this point in time. And the two of them are just really getting at each other's nerves. So Omega's trying to, how do I want to phrase this? Be the middleman, and is trying to convince Crosshairs to just open up and talk to Hunter. And Crosshairs is kind of just like, nope, don't want to. And realistically, he's being watched by Hunter very closely, and he's just kind of getting sick and tired of it. So Echo comes and meets with them to try to get as much intel from both Crosshair and Omega to figure out where all of the prisoned clones are. So they're going over as much as they can, and apparently Omega has the pin pad that she took off planet, but it hasn't been working. And Echo is basically stating like he really wishes Tech was here because he would be able to decipher this and they wouldn't have a problem. That's when Crosshair says that there is a chance to bypass the security program by attaching it to a outpost, Imperial outpost. And that's when the rest of the group is kind of just like, well, where should we go? Blah, blah, blah. And that's when Crosshairs explains that he knows a place that's remote, understaffed, and that should be easy for them to get in and out of. So they're very skeptical, and at first Hunter explains that Wrecker and Omega are staying behind, and Omega is like, nope, that's not happening. We're all going together. And Hunter loses that fight. When they're getting ready to get on their mission, Hunter and Crosshairs are still not talking to each other, but he explains to Omega, meaning Crosshairs explains to Omega, that Hunter isn't doing it to be a jerk. He's doing it because he wants to protect her. And Omega's basically like, well, you don't think I should go either. He goes, you can handle yourself, yes, but you have to realize you're still a kid. And because of that, that might be the reason why you can't do as much as everyone else. But that does not mean that you are not capable. And that's one of the nicest things he's said to Omega since I think they've known each other. And she explains that she's actually older than all of them. And he starts laughing, and they all get on the ship. So they get to the planet, and it's the planet that Crosshairs actually turned against the Empire, where he killed the high ranking officer. So they get there, and they see all of these sensor posts on the perimeter of the outpost. And it looks like there's nobody there, and there hasn't been anybody there for a while. So Hunter's getting very, very questionable, or very much questioning Crosshairs, and is explaining like, "Hey, wouldn't this have been nice to know that this place was abandoned? I thought you said it was low, short-staffed." And Crosshairs basically gives him a wisecrack back, stating that, "Hey, I when I was in my prison cell, I didn't get daily updates on what's been going on." So the two of them are still at each other. So they get there, they go into the outpost. They're realizing that they need to divert all power from the sensor arrays to the outpost so they could download all the information that the pin pad had. So they do so. When that happens, they find out that there's a creature that was being kept at bay by the sensor arrays. And apparently, it's this massive ice worm, I guess the best way to put it, that travels underground and starts trying to smash into the group. So before the worm is seen, we have Hunter and Crosshairs outside looking at the perimeter. Now, Crosshairs offered to do it alone, but Hunter decided it would be best that somebody else was with him. So when they see the worm, they start running, and they realize that now they know why the sensory arrays were out there to block out this creature from coming in. Well, they come up with a plan that one person's going to have to go to the breaker and do, or the fuse box and bring power back, and then they would be able to divert the power back into the sensory arrays. But to do that, they wanted to make sure that the worm was outside of the perimeter, because if it wasn't, they were going to be trapped inside the perimeter with the creature. So Hunter and Crosshairs decide that they're going to be the two to go out and bring the worm outside the perimeter. I'm sorry, not Rex. Wrecker was going to be the one to go to the fuse box, and Echo was going to the tower to keep eyes on everything. And Omega was going to stay inside. So as they go out, they split up, doing what they need to do. Wrecker starts digging his way into the fuse box. Echo is in his spot, and Hunter and Crosshairs are running away from the worm. At one point, unfortunately, Hunter avoids the worm but falls into the underground, and that's when they use the animal that they took from the prison planet and using him to sniff out Hunter to try to make sure that once they know where Hunter is outside the perimeter, they'll all be able to try to get the worm out as well. So there's a lot of diversion. Crosshair starts shooting the worm to get him away. They eventually get to the other side of the perimeter, and Crosshairs and the animal were trying to dig a hole so Hunter could get out. They were able to dig a hole out. They pull him out. They realize the worm has been outside the perimeter, and so they tell Omega to turn it back on, and they start running to safety as quickly as possible. They barely make it, but obviously because it's only episode 5, they make it. So they get inside, and they realize that all the information that they could get from the pin pad was the fact that it was just medical reports of all the clones that were there, but also a list of all the clones that were there. Echo was trying to make Omega feel better that, hey, you've done everything you can, and you had to do the most important thing to help those clones out was to escape yourself. And then at the end, we have a quick heart to heart with Crosshairs and Hunter, where Crosshairs was actually the one to initiate it. So he basically explains, okay, I thought I was doing the right thing by joining the Empire. I thought it was what we were supposed to do as a good soldier. But I've done some things that I regret significantly, and I really wish I could go back and fix it. And instead of Hunter telling him, oh, yes, of course, you should have, he states, you know what, we've all done some horrible stuff that we wish we would have done better, and we've all done stuff we regret. But at least we're now all together. And I think that's awesome. So we now know that we're going to be leading up to most likely the Bad Batch helping Rex and Echo break into the planet that had the clones and try to release all of them. And that looks like that's going to be the big push for this season. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. Overall, thought this episode was good. It kind of really gave us the information we needed, but also the closure we needed of them kind of dealing with their issues. They're not going to be perfect. We're not claiming them to be, but they can deal with themselves enough to realize, hey, we're all in this together and we got to work together. And I like that. Also, just curious at where the next several episodes are going to go. How close are they going to get to knowing the location of the planet? And also, are we going to see Rex again? I'm 95% sure we're going to see Rex again. Not necessarily in the next episode, but definitely before the season ends, for sure. Let me know what you guys thought about this episode in the comments below. Did you like it? Did you not? And why? And as always, if you like the content you see, please like and subscribe down below. Other than that, this is going to be Beastly Eel signing out. Have a great night.